fiber, and wireless together at last. The One Plan. Fiber and wireless for $99 a month with a 5-year price guarantee and a free 5G phone for everyone. Fiber and wireless for $99 a month with a 5-year price guarantee. C-Spire. Customer inspired.
Hello, friends, and welcome inside, at least for me, Ben Garrett, the Riverland Roofing Studios. Riverland Roofing for all your roofing needs, 662-644-4297, online at riverlandroofing.com. It's the little house up top. Joining me today, good friend of the program, longtime Ole Miss Rebel, longtime NFL Rebel. It's Bradley Sowell, finally making his return appearance to Talk of Champions. Hey, buddy, what's up?
Not much. What you doing? You get ready for some football or what?
Trying to, but unfortunately, as we're 9 days away, 9 days from kickoff of the 2026 football season for Ole Miss, all that any of us on this side of it seem to be talking about is courtrooms and injunctions and TROs and everything of that nature. You're someone who did the whole process before we get going into anything and everything Ole Miss. What do you think about this attempt from players that go pro, including Jack Clyburn, who is in camp right now with the Bucs and came out yesterday saying, well, if he doesn't make the Bucs, he's going to go rejoin LSU. It's going to all get caught up in the courts. The SEC has obviously made new rules, other conferences as well. The Big East is abstaining. It's just going to see how it's going to play out. They're not going to turn away potential players like a Daquan Wright and a Xavier Harris, whoever it might be. But rather than get too far deep into the weeds of where things are now, just what is your opinion, Mr. Bradley Sowell, of all of this and how this thing's kind of playing out, being so close to the season especially?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of going to the NFL and coming back, especially if it was like it used to be in college football. I think it would be absurd. But now with the money involved, listen, you can't blame the kids at this point. I mean, they're chasing money just like anybody else will be. Just like if you're sitting at your job right now and somebody called you and said, "Hey, I'll double your salary." What are you going to do? You're going to get them go. So I can't fault the kids. This is a poor mismanagement of leadership. Listen, when you're coming back from the pros, that's hard to fathom. It really is. And to me, I mean, some people are like, "Oh, they can go and improve their draft stock." No, they can't. Like they're 6 months like that. They just shed what they had in the NFL. If they weren't good enough to make a roster, they likely aren't going to be good enough to come back and make the roster unless they go on practice squad or whatever. So, they're going back for simple reason. They're giving them NIL money that's significantly more than what they were going to make in the NFL or their chances. And you can't blame the kid. I'm not mad at the kids at all. Go get the money.
No,
it's just like anything else. You create dumbass rules, dumbass regulations. Don't blame the people that are benefiting from it. Like they're not the ones that created the rule. Like listen, if you're not about to make the team, if you're a Harris or a Daquan Wright, who's probably a slow NFL tight end, somebody says, "Hey, you can come back and play for $750." What are you going to do? You're going back to play. It is what it is. It's still the same game, still the same football. So not mad at the kids. Go get your money and benefit from it all you want. But like, how are we allowing that is insane. You're trying to tell me that the kid has went to the NFL, played in games, and can come back because some silly rule in 2022. It's not fair. In that case, like, hell, let me come back. Like, let's do it. Like, let's just keep it going. Anybody can come back and play. Like, I don't understand it at all. That's getting a little too crazy for me. Once you played in a program, it's always been you can't come back. Any sport.
And that's where the precedent will be interesting to see how far down the road, down the rabbit hole we go here, because what's effectively or essentially going to happen, there was a Monday court proceeding that was rescheduled to September 3rd, I think. So right pushed up against when most all schools are starting. Week 0 is already here. I mean, we've had football games, NFL preseason games last night. Some of these guys who are going to be trying to come back to college, playing in those games, trying to make rosters. But September 3rd, they're probably going to get an injunction, a temporary restraining order, but then the SEC would turn around because of the rule it's put in place and the adoption of that rule as voted for, including LSU, unanimous on that Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it was. Now the next vote, LSU abstained, so it was 15-0 unanimous, but with LSU abstaining from voting as to give themselves some more legal room. as a charter institution of the SEC, you're voluntarily adopting those rules. So even if they're allowed to play or grant eligibility, there's still a chance once the SEC inevitably turns around, takes it to federal court, appellate courts, if you do go through the hassle of taking on these players, and there's as much of a chance, if not better, that these players will be ruled ineligible and being punished for that, including like 50% of a season for Lane Kiffin, or having like not getting any revenue or votes in that kind of thing in the rooms. Those are real consequences, but that's later, and that's a whole nother batch of worms, because then those guys, those schools or those impacted schools are just going to turn around and sue too. So for you, is it worth the hassle in your opinion? Considering I'm not because you and I both agree. The players, I don't blame the players at all. Like Xavier Harris, this is his last opportunity to keep playing football.
Play football, yeah.
I get that, but ultimately, is it worth the hassle? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Knowing that you're taking a pretty big gamble, and the SEC saying it's digging in for this fight.
I think if you're a really good team, if you're in that top 15, that top 20, that has a chance to play for the playoffs, I think you avoid it. And I think you just be real cautious on what you're about to do to your locker room, right? Like, okay, cool. You bring a Daquan Wright back to LSU. What's that say to the kid that just earned that spot? Like, I'm not saying he beats him out. He still may not beat him out. Maybe just be for depth, right? It may be for whatever. But to me, it's like, what message are you sending if you have to go get a tight end from the NFL? Are you telling your guys they suck? Which he's done it before. I mean, he told a whole playoff team they weren't good enough for him. So, he very well could do that again. But to me, it's like, if you got a really good team, really good, say I have a sophomore tight end that's a really good, I think his upside's really good. Maybe at the moment he's not as good as Daquan Wright, but am I going to try to take playing? I don't know. To me, I kind of like what Kirby Smart said about it. I mean, you got to be very cautious with that. Like, what are you telling guys that've been there and earned it all spring and all summer, and then all of a sudden, you're the starting left tackle, then you're not week 2 because some kid who already was, went to the NFL, whatever. I don't love it. If you're a bad team and you're just looking for hell, I need to save a job, try to get as many of these kids as I can to try to have a competitive season, whatever. But a really good team with a program that's heading upwards, I mean, I don't know that I'd do it unless we were, had injuries or something where we really needed somebody bad. But if I got a full room, I'm not bringing a player in that I don't care if it's going, even if it's going to make us better for a minute. I'm not going to do that and potentially, run 2 kids off that are going to be, the future of that position.
Here's my question. How do you think it's being received in NFL locker rooms? Because the NFL locker rooms are different than college locker rooms. Those are pros. Those guys understand. Those guys probably even go, hey, look, I get what you're doing. But even acknowledging that, I've already heard from a number of people at the next level. They're like, dude, what they're also doing is costing themselves any chance of coming back to the NFL. Like, and you could argue that, well, in the court of law, that we could start talking about collusion claims and this, that, and the other. Regardless of all of that, just from the purely from the perspective of the player, man, it seems like while you're fighting for, quote, leverage to preserve, or in Xavier's case, continue a career, if you're wanting to keep going in the NFL, this is pretty much blackballing you.
Well, that and like, okay, you're gonna go back to college for $500,000, probably somewhere that $500,000-$800,000 range, unless you're like unbelievable. Piper may get like over $1 million or something. But there's also the tons of people that you've heard. I mean, even like a Benito Jones, he started on practice squad, I think, or he started undrafted, or maybe. There are guys that, they go on a practice squad, and people think, oh, they're on practice squad in the NFL. Like, dude, practice squad in the NFL, you got to be really damn good to be on. And I've seen guys go from practice squad week 1 to starting week 2, playing really well and becoming Pro Bowlers and having, $50 million contracts. I'm not saying this is going to happen to one of these kids, but damn sure would like to take the chance. I damn sure would like to take the chance to get my NFL retirement in place and getting, my life started. That cool. You go out to college, make a little money. That 1 year of money, they're just using you for, you're trying to set up a career in the NFL that will give you lifetime benefits. So there are players that go on practice squad that end up, getting the right coach. And myself as an example, I wasn't that great at pass blocking. I got fixed. I never went on practice squad, but I developed and became good enough to make it for an amount of time. When I got to the league, I was not good enough to make it for an amount of time. Right. So you don't know which one of these guys are going to get a chance to get coached, maybe something clicks and they get in the right system and they become ballers and they're, have a chance to make 50 to $100 million, but you're going back to college for 1 year. And to me, I don't want anything to do with you after that. I mean, you ran off and you sold out for 1 year of college. So I don't know. I mean, I think they're pissing away a chance to at least be in the league and working towards, getting the ultimate goal, which is a big contract and a career where when you're done, you're set up, a pension, all that in place. So I don't know. I think this is a crazy territory to be in. It's insane.
It's insane. It reminds me, and like I use this when talking to Brad Logan, my regular coach here on Talking Champions. Subscribe to the Ole Miss Spirit today with his QR code. Still that promotion, 75% off fall camp promotion, still going strong up until football, I think. But time is ticking. But y'all have had such an incredibly overwhelming response that they extended it. So please join us at the Ole Miss Spirit. Brad drops in and out. He's on the Ole Miss Spirit. Sowell, and whenever we need him, he drops in. I need him to drop in more. And I tell him that every time I talk to him because nobody can set that place on fire quite like my man Bradley Sowell. So come join us at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com for 75% off. That equates to $249 a month, $30 for the year. But like you brought up a really good point about the players and like because I've seen it a lot on the Spirit and everywhere else, Twitter, wherever you might get information and stuff about Ole Miss, and a lot of fans, and understandably so, I'm not knocking it, saying like, well, Xavier Harris, you're just throwing away your Ole Miss legacy for what? Daquan Wright, you're just throwing away your Ole Miss legacy for what? I would argue, I don't even think about it that way. The NCAA created this little booth where it's like one of those booths with money that they blow up in your face, and you've got like a limited amount of time to scoop up as much as possible.
Exactly.
I don't blame them. I blame the person who put that in place and left it there as an option for them because like they're maximizing their earning potential. And I get that. My question is, where do you think it ends up?
I don't know. I mean, they're going to find a way to get these kids in college playing this year. These kids are going to play some kind of way. I don't see that there's going to be some kind of ruling, some kind of injunction. Like they found all these loopholes now that's just is unbelievable. To that they can get by. Which, like I said, if they can do it, do it. I mean, it is what it is. I'm not mad at the kid. I just think at some point, like the college is 4 years, right? Like we're going to start going back to high school too. Like, I mean, what are we doing? Like, you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and at least in college, you can get another, red shirt year or whatever. But that's it. Move on. Life's over. There's a whole nother bunch of kids that are going to come carry the torch. And we got people making, 7-8 year careers out of college football. Like, if that's the case, let's just separate and make college football a contract. Let's just make it a damn D league, and it will start sending NFL guys back down to play. They can't make it. Like, it will just make it more of a money maker. I don't know, but like college sports were supposed to be, an extension of a high school type environment for the elite kids to play in. Right, like it's for the youth. It's not for grown men to come back and benefit off of. Like it's ridiculous. Like, move the hell on. Oh, I'm not good enough to make the NFL. Let me come back and play college. Okay, cool. I didn't make it to Ole Miss. I got cut. I'm gonna come back and see if I can play Hernando for 2 more years and run it. Like, what are we doing? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we're in for the year or the season of court fights. This is what it's going to be. They'll get a TRO on September 3. Those programs, not just LSU, will have to decide whether to play them. If they do play them, knowing full well that fights are coming in the next coming months. Like Greg Sankey, every Saturday is at one of his member institutions football games, usually one of the better ones, a good matchup. I would think that he'll be swapping a lot of that for courtrooms and fighting in appellate court and federal court and all this kind of stuff for the SEC to govern itself. And there is a legitimate argument for the SEC to say, no, they can't, and we can enforce that because a court can't tell a conference that was voluntarily agreed upon rules I'm talking about by its institutions. You can't tell us how to govern. So we'll see how it plays out. It's not what I want to be talking about 9 days out. It's not what I want to be focused on 9 days out. And you mentioned how Kirby kind of had the right approach to it. I think Pete had the right approach to it too. He said essentially the same thing. He's like, I mean, they're going to consider all options because, and like, I don't blame Lane for trying to circumvent things or find loopholes. Man, those coaches' jobs are quite literally, did you win on Saturday? And if you didn't, it's a week to week, certainly a year to year, but now it's like almost week to week. I saw recently, I think it was Brandon Fiocco, who played at LSU and played in the league. And already he's saying, well, Lane's on the hot seat. Like he's on the hot seat with all like that's the reality. So
Well, I thought Lane went down there. I didn't know he wanted tight ends that couldn't make the NFL on his roster. I thought that talent was really elite there, and he could just find 5-star and whatever tight ends sitting all around the bayou and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe
that does kind
that's
of
what it
punch
was.
a hole in that whole thing about how
Yeah.
it's just different, and Ole Miss you couldn't have enough to you didn't have enough resources to win, and yet all you've done is try to bring players from Ole Miss over. Oh, to be backups. That's not what you tried to do with Trinidad and Keywan. And Winnie Watkins, you got him. Ole Miss didn't fight to keep him, didn't want to keep him. That was a bad marriage from the get-go. Everyone knew that was going to happen. Princeville and Devin, you still owe buyout money. Really, ultimately, you'll have gotten 6 when everyone thought it was going to be a bloodbath, including LSU fans. But I don't even care about that. For me, it's like, wasn't the whole point that LSU was bigger, bagger, badder, and better? And all it seems to me that you want to do is bring or take your Ole Miss program as it was at Ole Miss and just bring it over to LSU and see that as the starting point. And it just kind of goes against what you were saying because you got Trey Green, at tight end.
Yeah.
You like, what do you need Daquan for? Like, what do you, if he's just backup, then that would argue, then what are you even taking the chance for, knowing that you could get ruled ineligible? Regardless, knowing what we know about the SEC today, where does Ole Miss stand with you? Do you think Ole Miss 10-2, 9-3 playoffs against the backdrop of what we know about the SEC? What do you like about Ole Miss? What do you think about them?
I think this team this year could be better and not have as good a record. I've said that the whole time based off the schedule. I mean, they've got a pretty tough schedule. You have in Texas, Georgia. LSU's going to be a lot better this year. It's going to be a really tough schedule. You got to go to OU, I think. Is it 2 OU, I think? Yeah, we got 2 Texas and 2 OU, and then you got Georgia. So, I mean, you could easily lose 3 this year and be a better team. That's just realistic. We'll just have to see what everybody else got. Going to Florida is not going to be. They have athletes regardless, even if they're a bad team. So, it's going to be. I mean, if we go 10-2 this year, I'd be extremely happy and getting the playoffs. It's just going to be one of those deals where we're going to take it 1 week at a time and battle through it. I mean, it's going to be a tough grind. Now, talent wise, I think we'll be fine. It's just some of these environments are going to be tough. So we're going to have to play some of our best ball when we need it the most on some of those away games. But talent will be there. I mean, I think defense can be much improved. Added a bunch of people to it. Offense. My biggest concern is just offense, tackle, and wide receiver. It's not that we don't have the wide receivers. It's just I've never seen them in the game. On paper they look good, but I've never seen hardly any of these guys. So that's my only concern other than Deuce. But I mean, Strib was pretty damn good. I said that all year long. I was like, that dude's an NFL player, and he goes like second round, first pick, damn near first rounder. So he was a lot better.
He's balling out right now for him in preseason.
I'm telling you, dude, he's pretty special. And then Harrison Wallace is pretty damn good too. So it's just one of those. We'll see. We'll see. So I think we're gonna have a really good team. I'd like to see us run the hell out of the ball this year. I think we got the room to do that. Probably our best running back room ever at Ole Miss. Which is saying a lot because we've had some good running back rooms over the years. It's going to be one of those deals, man. You got to take a week at a time. You can't lose one you're supposed to win. That's for damn sure because you need some room in the schedule.
I thought I didn't think there would be a running back room that I would at Ole Miss that I would. I don't want to say love because love's not the right word, but certainly I always held Deuce and John and Joe Gunn up there as that was the best running back room, and now. Man, they've got not just Keywan, but Mackay and Shakai Mills Knight, JT Lindsay, Joshua Dye. There's a lot to like there. And that's where I'm the concerns about, quote, wide receiver depth are who's the number 4 guy? Mm-hmm. It takes away from and partly why Pete and them kind of stayed away from really I know that that Daquan Wright went out there and said that Ole Miss offered him a lot of money. Either he's lying through his teeth or somebody at Ole Miss is because they did not pursue him like that. You can say whatever you want to on Twitter, bro, but they didn't come after him. One of the reasons was they liked the tight end room and they'd been practicing for months and months and months and months and months. Caleb Odom, Luke Koss, Michael Smith, Hayden Bradley, Brady Priestcorn. They maybe wouldn't have added 2 of those dudes if Daquan's coming back. So that's just a bunch of nonsense. It is. Ole Miss didn't pursue him. Talked to Zay briefly about coming back as an offensive lineman because they didn't think he's going to be healthy enough. He's still dealing with the foot. He's out of condition. Maybe he comes back in October, November, and he's something. But LSU wants him for now. Neither here nor there. But I'm looking at this team, and Pete was right. you look at the tight ends, he factors that into the pass catchers. You know what I mean? So if like Caleb Odom is your number 4 wide receiver because you got Luke and Michael, you see what I'm saying? Like it just changes the calculus. So can I interest you then in an offense that's maybe, let's just say they're not as dynamic as they were last year, which I don't think there's any evidence to support that. But let's say that they're not. Just given all the critics, there's Lane's gone. John Day, it's not Lane and Charlie Weiss collaborating as OC. It's just John David Baker and Joe Judge. Maybe there's a drop off. Fine, let's say that there is. But what if you got just a B plus version of last year's offense with the 2024 defense? Do you still think with that schedule that they're not going to go, that they're going to have a worse record and be a better team? No, I still think I'm more confident today than I was weeks ago. Because I just think that Ole Miss is being criminally undersold because of what it says on their helmet.
I think a little bit of that and a little bit of the schedule, but I think we'll feel a lot better once we see them play. Right? There's just so much you just don't. We haven't seen an offense without Kiffin or Weiss in years. So That's it's right. And listen, John Davis, my guy. Like I love John David Baker. He was exactly who I said we should have hired. He went. It's proven. He went into one of the worst offenses in the country and made it a top 20 offense. Like he's proven he knows how to do offense. I think once we see him come out first game, if it all looks like it did, I think everybody's more I think everybody just kind of don't know what to expect, even though we even know these players. So it's just I think people are afraid of like that whole the offense is going to take a step back, even though it didn't whenever Kiffin wasn't there. So it looked as good as it's ever looked. So. I think we'll be fine. I mean, we're going to have a good team. There's no question about that. It's just the expectation's so high. Now it's like, I mean, a 9-3 team would just make it. I mean, that wouldn't be great. It wouldn't be. It almost, I'm not going to say it feels like 24, but 24 had a really good roster, but they just tricked off a game they wasn't supposed to. Kentucky, telling what Lane was doing that week, and then went down to Florida and tricked another one off there. So it's just like you just never know.
I will say I don't think John David Baker, Pete are going to be starting a 5th string wide receiver at Florida and starting running back. That's one thing we don't have to worry about. Stuff like that. Micah Davis starting over Ulysses Bentley. Yeah, you didn't have any good options at running back, but the best one you had, you always sat, which made absolutely no sense. And when he actually got to play, he showed out. So I think you'll get a lot less of that because it's just about the ball, and I think Ole Miss has got the pieces. Who are your because teams are going to have to lose in the SEC this year. That's the thing. Like, there are a lot of good teams, and like I can make the case for 10-2 for Texas A&M, Ole Miss, obviously. Heck, Alabama, you could do it for LSU, Georgia, obviously. My question for you is who do you think, if it's not Ole Miss, who do you think is the favorite going into the year in the SEC?
Yeah, I think Texas and Georgia are obviously always going to be up there based off what they have. But to me, I mean, there's not a clear-cut favorite in the SEC this year. I think the other schools have a great collection of talent, which so do we. So, I mean, that's going to be the fun part about this year is I really think that, anywhere between 4 to 6 teams could compete for it, just like typical. We don't know how Alabama's going to be. We don't know how LSU is going to end up being, even though, I mean, I'm basing off of, I watched their quarterback play at Mississippi State last year, but that's here nor there. So we just don't know how it's going to end up. So I think Ole Miss got a chance. LSU, Texas, Georgia, like there's a lot of we'll know pretty quick within the first couple of weeks, but I think there's a lot of parity at the top this year.
Do you think Ole Miss gets its first Heisman winner this year? Say they go 10-2, repeat like Trinidad repeats his last year, or Keywan does another like he breaks his own Ole Miss record. He was second in the SEC. Yeah, it's one of those two if it happens.
If Ole Miss makes another playoff run and the stats are where they need to be for either Trinidad or Lacey, you could have. I think it could be Lacey potentially if he has another monster year.
Man. Like, dude, to see an Ole Miss running back, not a Manning, not any of that would be what would get you your first Heisman. That would be insane.
Yeah.
Like Trinidad, I think, has the most obvious, pathway of the two, even more so, like far more so than Keywan, just because running backs aren't valued like that for the Heisman anymore. But like, still, it shows you the historic nature of what Keywan did last year. And I think and that's another thing too, when factoring in how good Ole Miss is going to be. I think there's still some leveling up to do for Keywan too. Like, that room you're talking about, that depth of that new running back room for Ole Miss if it helps anyone the most, it helps Kiwan, because that dude was banged up at the end of the year, like absolutely banged up. And these are guys that are capable. So if you get like an extra level from Kiwan, dude, what does that look like? You know what I mean? What kind of separator is that? And I think Trinidad too. It's his first full year starting in the SEC. Like, he's got some stuff to prove too. And I think those kind of those different variables being kind of unknowns are like good potential unknowns for you.
One thing about it all is I'm gonna be excited to watch. It's a lot better spectating, just chilling and watching it all play out. As you get older, you really appreciate what's coming, and there's gonna be a lot of good storylines. I will be in Oxford for that September 19th game. I don't think there's many people that are gonna be willing to miss that one. So
I'll be there too. Are you shocked to hear it? My question is this: when I go to Baton Rouge next year, you going with me?
Man, I have never been there as an away fan, but I feel like it's my kind of environment, though. Like, when you pull in there and they're throwing beer on the bus and screaming and whatever, it smells like freaking grease everywhere. It's unbelievable.
My question is, all right, Poe said he'd be flanking my left. Will you be flanking my right?
Yeah, I'm good with it. I'm not scared. I'm not scared of any LSU fans. So,
I mean, I'm not scared of them either. But like, let's be honest, stupid ass Ben against the wave of Death Valley fanatics, I'm not going to hold up very long. You know what I mean? Be like John Snow with the sword in the Battle of the Bastards. You know,
that's going to be year one without Trinidad and without Kiwan. We may wait till about year 2. Let's wait till year 4 on that.
I'm not going to lie to you.
I need to see it reload a little bit.
When you put it like that, that kind of changes the calculus a little bit. Not to say I'm not a believer in what Deuce Night could be, but like taking a Ole Miss, Sans, Trinidad, and Kiwan to Baton Rouge next year. So maybe Brad and Ben and Poe will have to be.
Go to a baseball game. Let's go to a baseball game, maybe.
I've never been down there for a baseball game. Have you?
I haven't either. No.
You're Mr. Baseball too. Like, he's Bradley Sowell, former Ole Miss Rebel, 8-year NFL vet, but you love baseball. Okay. And like this ruling, 2022 stuff, and the eligibility fight does impact Ole Miss baseball for next year, Judd. Udemark and Will Furness, whether or not Ole Miss will be able to add them. Ole Miss basketball just today added a player with NBA connections in Micah Hangleton from Florida, a transfer from Florida. He's pursuing a 5th season in court, just as Corey Stevenson, the transfer from FIU. Here's my question as I let you go. All right. I'm of the opinion, I'll say it clearly, these dudes too, any of them coming back from professional, I think all of them should be ruled ineligible. All right, I want to make that very clear. All right, what do you think about Ole Miss basketball trying to take advantage of the rule when, the football is operating differently? It tells you, though, kind of reinforces what we were saying. Chris Beard feels a sense of urgency and desperation, and desperation leads to strange bedfellows.
No matter who it is, I don't agree with them. If they played any college or any professional ball, they should not be the combative watch. I don't care. Like, it is what it is. But if they're allowing it, use it. Whatever, cool, do it. You didn't make the rules. You're just trying to say, you're trying to win. Whatever. Now, as far as the 2 baseball guys coming back, those guys never touched a MLB field or got to anything. Those guys
didn't sign a contract.
Those guys were headed for State Farm and probably Ross Yeager or something. Like, they weren't. Those guys weren't trying to go play baseball. They were trying to start their lives. And cool, I can play another year of baseball. Not a big deal. Get some more education. That's fine. Now, if Judd went and played a full minor league season and then or whatever, or put on a minor league uniform,
went to A-ball for like 3 weeks and played a handful of games. That's essentially it's done.
Yeah, you're done. You've leveled up, not to level back. Like, there's no shot. There's no other scenario would you want to do that. But in this world right now, we're saying, hey, you know what? Leveling up is actually coming back to college and getting more money. Like, what are we doing? If I was NFL people, I'd be freaking. I would be. There's no way. They're just. I mean, they make the NFL look. I mean, it's not the dream job, I guess, anymore for a lot of these kids. A lot of these kids are going to freaking play 4 years, make as much as they were going to make in their first couple. And then when you get to the league, I mean, what are you working for at this point? Like, man, I'm telling you, that first check, they brought me to my knees. Like, coming from being poor, like, growing up, like, we didn't have a ton like that, like. And in college, we lived off $7.79 a month. Like, the struggle was real, but you went through all that struggle to eventually get through a camp to where you had no clue if you're going to make the team. you turn around and make the team, and you're probably overdrafted in your damn debit account at the time. And then when you get your first game check, although after taxes, it's, I think at the time it was like $12,000 or $13,000. I literally dropped to my knees. I was like crying. Okay, so that taking that element out of it, like that, what are we teaching in life? Right? Like, man, that moment right there has taught me to do the same thing in the business world, taught me to do the same thing in everything I do in life is like, man, freaking work your tail off and get rewarded instead of like, I mean, we're just teaching some shitty habits for the youth, which is whatever. That's the world we live in. Cool. But sometimes the reward or the process or the journey to get there is what actually shapes you as a human being rather than just making the easy route all the damn time for people. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on it.
Well said. Bradley Sowell, former Ole Miss offensive lineman, 8-year NFL veteran. He's at the Ole Miss Spirit pretty regularly, omspirit.com. Joined today for 75% off. We're going to go to a commercial break, and when we come back, Brad Logan has got Brian Hadad as we continue our opponent preview series, this time with the in-state rival Mississippi State Bulldogs. I'm just mad that they left me out, that I didn't get to join them in their little conversation together. But I left Brad out of talking to Bradley Sowell, and he's going to yell at me about that too. But I'm just thankful that you came on, buddy. Next time, don't make it months again. Come on. When all you got to do is text and say, Ben, I want to come on. I got something to say, and I'm going to put you on. So, promise
I'm available every week, dude. Just let me know.
Okay, every week he says. So when Ole Miss plays Louisville, give me that one real quick to go to commercial break. Ole Miss beat the line 6.5. I say they're going to cover it pretty easily. Isaac Brown's a star running back for Louisville. They don't know who their quarterback is. Ole Miss score against Louisville in 9 days is what?
38-13, Ole Miss.
Thank you, Brad.
See you, Ben. Howdy toddy.
Protecting homes and businesses from the whims of nature. You need more than just quality materials. You require Riverland Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, Riverland Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what Riverland Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
Hey, Rebels, your truck is here. Ellen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's Ram, the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Ellen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends. I'm Warrior Philip Hearn. Raising my family here in Mississippi, I've tried to teach my kids to help others. I learned that from my parents. And as a Mississippi lawyer, I want to help you too. If you're hurt in a traffic accident, 18-wheeler wreck, or have insurance trouble, call 601-720-3541. That's my cell. You call, I'll answer. Let's get started. Make your first call to the Hearn Law Firm today.
And welcome back to the Talk of Champions, our Mississippi State preview, and none other than a friend of the program, Brian Hadad, joins us. And Hadad, I'm so excited. We talked in pre-production just for a moment.
Hold up a second, Brad. Yeah. Hold up a second. Where is that scumbag Ben Garrett? Where I was under the impression
Ben scooted out. I know. Ben scooted out.
This is why.
He's not here today.
This is why, Brad. Every time. I told a couple weeks ago I was in Oxford for the not fall camp tour. Ben's like, "Oh, I'll come say hello." Did he do that? Of course he did not. He is not a good person. This is why I've spent my entire career trying to work against this man. Now you see.
He scooted out. I mean, I have no excuses. So I'm just here for the people, just like you are. And I want to talk about Mississippi State because I think this year is a great year for Mississippi State to go bowling. We'll get into the rosters and all that good stuff. But for Jeff Lebby, we've talked a lot about Jeff Lebby on our program. I think this is a big year for him.
It's a huge year. I mean, it's kind of a go or get off the pot year for Jeff Lebby. He needs to be better than he was last year, and I don't know if 6-6 would be better enough for Jeff Lebby. When you look at what he's got going on these first few weeks, obviously playing ULM, that's a team you expect to beat and beat easily. But then you're at Minnesota, you're at South Carolina, then you bring in Missouri. You need to win these games. Those are your first 4 games. Your next 4 are Alabama, LSU. You said we weren't going to bring up LSU, but I have to right there. Oklahoma and Texas. You can very easily, you're going to be favored to go 0-4 in those games. So State needs early momentum, and if Lebby is losing games in September, he's going to lose what support he has in this fan base. He's got to get off to a fast start.
We're seeing the video here, by the way. I wanted to point this out. This is something that's special to me growing up in the 90s and the 2000s during the Jackie Sherrill era. Mississippi State, the block MSU is back on the helmets, and it appears this is for a finality. This is it, and I think you are in large part to thank for this, but your excitement when you saw this video with Wayne Mackin come out.
It's great. Those were the glory days for Mississippi State when you go into the SEC championship game and those great teams that State had in the late 90s. And, Wayne Mackin, obviously a huge piece of that. That logo is Mississippi State football. It is what people to this day, when they see that logo, they think Mississippi State, they think Wayne Mackin, they think J.J. Johnson, they think Fred Smoot and all those great players. So for me, 100%, it belongs on that helmet. I hope they'll do something and tweak the jersey a little bit. State has the plainest jersey in the SEC. It's just a maroon jersey. There's not a whole lot to it. So hopefully they'll do something with that. But it's been a long debate over the past 5 or 6, maybe 7 years trying to get to this point with that logo. But it's finally back where it belongs on the MSU helmet.
A lot of conversations with Zach Selman, Director of Athletics at Mississippi State, listening to the people. And it just from the outside point, 10,000 feet view, it appears that he's doing that, not only by this logo, but with the lights installed in the stadium, a lot of positive things just outside the field for Mississippi State.
Yeah, Selman has done a good job, and he walked into a really bad situation, Brad. When he took over Mississippi State's NIL, you and I might have more money in the bank than Mississippi State did when Zach Selman took over. And now he's put himself into, a position where NIL-wise, State is very competitive in football, very competitive in basketball. We all know about what's going on there with baseball. Facilities are on the upgrade. And he has done a good job. Mississippi State for decades was not the most fan-friendly athletic department. It's kind of their way or the highway kind of way of doing things. Zach Selman has very much taken into to listening to the fans, listening to what they want, and trying to deliver that for them. And this was a big thing that fans wanted to see.
What have you seen out of Jeff Lebby? We talked about him at the top of the show. How has he been in media availability, and what do you think he likes about this team this year?
He's been, I don't know if confident or he just seems more at ease. There's been so much talk with Golding, I know, about how comfortable he feels in his own skin just talking to the media. The first couple of years with Lebby, I think he knew what he had out there on the field. He knew that wasn't the best team. And I think it translated into when you talk to him, he was just kind of, protective of himself. I think just based off of from talking to him this year, I don't know how much you can really take from a guy, he's joking with the media or having a laugh here or there, but that wasn't happening in the first 2 years. I think he believes he's got a good team. He's always been really honest with the media about his roster. So when a position group is not good, last year he was straight up. He's just like, this offensive line is not good enough. We're going to have to work really hard. And he was absolutely correct. But also in the preseason last year, he was saying that the receiver group was going to be fantastic. Well, Brennan Thompson led the SEC in receiving yards. Anthony Evans had 67 catches last year, and he's back. So Lebby has always been pretty straightforward. He says that this offensive line is better. And that's the biggest question mark for State, is that if the offensive line can be better, everything else I think will take care of itself. But Lebby seems at ease. He seems to believe in his team in a way that I would say that he did not the first couple of years.
Similar to Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss, and I think honestly the gig is up. Everybody knows that Kamario Taylor is an incredible talent. I had a chance to visit with him a little bit in Tampa. I know you and Michael did on Sports Talk Mississippi, which you can find, Brian, every single day from 3 until 6 on Sports Talk Mississippi. That's on SuperTalk Mississippi. Very impressed, but what's impressive to me, like I've talked about with Trinidad, he makes everybody else better. We'll talk about the offensive line in a moment, Fluff Boffle at running back. But to me, he makes the entire team better just being on the field. He was really good in the Egg Bowl, and he didn't have a lot of blocking either.
No. I mean, you go back and watch that game, and the plays he's making because he's able to escape. I mean, that long touchdown run, I'd say at least 6 or 7 Ole Miss football players had a chance to bring him down. And if you go back and watch that run, that's peak Kamario Taylor. Just absolutely gliding through the defense, but he's running so fast that nobody can catch up with him. Puts a leg down, leaves a defender in the dust, and there you go. This offseason has been more about finding a way to keep him in the pocket. Lebby told us when we talked to him Saturday that the way they're setting up their scrimmages and drills, as soon as he leaves the pocket, blow the whistle. No, we're not doing that. We're concentrating on working in the pocket. Now, when it comes time to get him out there on the field, I'm sure he'll let it rip and he'll make plays with his legs. But that's been the biggest thing for him, is just trying to develop as a pocket passer. We know he can make those big throws down the field. We also have seen the footage of that. It's, can he make those 10 to 12-yard throws on 2nd and 6? Can he make a 2 or 3 yard dump off for a first down when Mississippi State needs that? He just needs to become more of a complete quarterback. The athleticism is off the charts. The leadership, as you said, the intangibles are certainly there. Having a chance to talk to him, was really surprised how mature he was for a kid who, I mean, what is he, 19 years old? I was very impressed with that. But he's got to be more of a quarterback this year. And if he can do that, then this team has a really high ceiling, I think.
One thing I know means a lot to you, because we've talked about it, and it means a lot to me, is how much he puts into playing for the state of Mississippi. It means a lot to me. And Anthony Evans, someone else at wide receiver, I talked with him. And then the defensive side of the ball, Kelly Jones out of Clarksdale. It just means a lot to him. And, that's one thing I think is really special. And we talked about the quarterback room. And the good news, there is some – you talk about Yeoman, Jaden Rashada, and A.J. Swan. How did those two guys end up in Mississippi State? But the good news, you've got some leadership there in case they need to be called upon.
Yeah, Swan's an interesting one. Played some SEC football, obviously, at Vanderbilt and LSU. I guess I just look at him as a guy who wanted to come in and maybe work under Jeff Lebby, get a coaching career. I don't see a pro football career for A.J. Swan, but an experienced SEC backup is great. Rashada is really interesting, right? That was one that when that news was announced, I was just like, they did what? But you needed a third guy that had experience. Other than him, your third quarterback would have been a true freshman this year. I understand bringing him in. His name was connected to Lebby 2 years ago when he ended up committing to Georgia. When he went to Arizona State out of high school and then went to Georgia. But there was some buzz that he was coming to Mississippi State at that time. I think he just wanted to work with Lebby. That being said, Rashada will only play this year in blowouts, one way or the other, or something like that. Every competitive snap Mississippi State takes this year, Kamario Taylor is going to take it as long as he's healthy.
Looking at that receiving core, we know how good Anthony Evans is. Marquise Johnson, transfer out of Missouri, and then Aiden Williams, the transfer at Ole Miss. Aiden took a lot of steps forward last year. Hey, Dad, I thought he became a much better receiver than he was when he first got to Mississippi State.
Yeah, he was better last year, but he still hasn't tapped into all that potential. And you know it as well as anybody that guy physically has all the tools. State's got to replace Thompson. They went out in the transfer portal, bringing in Marquise Johnson from Missouri, bringing in Zion Raggins from Oklahoma. These are speed guys. These are guys that provide the same kind of skill set that Brennan Thompson did, which is I can get open on anybody going deep. Evans is back for another year. And then on the other side, Aiden Williams and maybe San Francisco McGee, who's what a rarity he is in this day and age of college football. It's his third year at State, hasn't played a whole lot, but has never entered the portal. Has just kind of bided his time and waited. Had a big touchdown catch in the bowl game for Mississippi State. Those two guys will fight it out on the other side. I expect Evans to be around 70, 80 catches this year. I expect whoever takes that, I guess it's the Z from Brennan Thompson, where he was last year, that's going to be a 40 to 50 catch guy. The real question for me is, can State, that other receiver, that X receiver, be a 30, 40 catch guy? We haven't had that at Mississippi State under Jeff Lebby. But if you can get three receivers combining for 150 catches, you really got something cooking on that offense.
3 years in college football, hey, Dad, is an eternity.
Yeah.
And, it's funny, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. Did San Francisco McGee commit to Ole Miss at one point?
He was. He flipped late in the process to Mississippi State after Lebby came on board, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, great receiver. Excited to see what he can do. All right, the running back room, Fluff Bothell, we know he's awesome. I'm excited to see what he can do. After that, I just don't know. What do you like about the running back room after Fluff?
It's very unproven. There's no question about that. You've got a guy like Xavier Gayton, who last year had an opportunity to be that number 2 back when Fluff got hurt, and didn't really run with the ball. No pun intended there. Had a fumble against Florida and just never took off. But he'll have another shot at it this year. You've got a redshirt freshman, Colin Wilson, who is from a skill set position very different than Fluff Bothwell. He's more of an explosive guy, can do some things in the passing game. And then you got 2 true freshmen, the 2 guys who played for the 7A state championship last year, J.J. Hill, who I got to see him in high school, and I was like, why is this guy so underrated? I don't understand. He looked like an SEC football player as a high school player. And then Cooper Crosby from Gulfport, who, his team won the state championship last year, beating Tupelo in that crazy game that was here in Starkville. One of those guys is going to have to step up. One thing about Lebby, and you know this from his time at Ole Miss, not going to be a guy who gives somebody 250 carries. He's going to play the committee game. So Bothwell, he's option 1, but somebody else is maybe 1 or 2 other guys is going to have to step up and be, 80 to 100 carries. Obviously, Kamario Taylor will be a guy who's over 100 carries as well by the time they get to the end of the season. So that's probably the position group where there's the most competition to see who's going to play after the starter.
I was impressed with Triore, the tight end. He made some plays last year.
Mm-hmm.
What is the room? Is it basically Sam West Jr., maybe Joseph Skipworth?
I mean, you've got that's a room where they didn't go out in the portal and get a difference maker. I was surprised by that. Triore was pretty good. Ends up going to the Miami Dolphins in the NFL draft. But now that room is super improvement. And, it's kind of interesting because this offense, the Lebby, Kiffin, Weiss, now JDB up there in Oxford, it can feature the tight end. And, like, the tight end can be a big play magnet in this offense. The state did not go out and upgrade that position very much. They brought in Riley Williams, who's a former highly recruited kid out of high school, but his college career has been injury-plagued and hasn't done a whole lot at 2 stops at Miami and Oregon State. We'll see if he can maybe figure it out here in Starkville. But right now, if you said what's of the skill position guys, who is where you got the most questions, it's definitely tight end.
The name that's familiar to me is Cannon Boone returning on the offensive line. After that, excited to see what DJ Chester can do, the transfer out of LSU, and then LJ Prudhomme, the redshirt freshman out of Arkansas. There's some transfer pieces there. There's some players that were on the roster before. What's that offensive line look like? And let's be honest, hasn't been very good the last couple of years.
I mean, it was the worst offensive line in college football last year. There's just no getting around that. The state could not protect Blake Shapen. I felt bad for Shapen, who wasn't the best quarterback out there, but he could have been a lot better with some better protection. You mentioned Boone. He's in the middle. He'll start at center. The one thing I do like about this team is that going back even to the spring, it feels like they've had the same 5 guys as the first group. And that's going to be Miles McVay, the transfer from North Carolina. You mentioned DJ Chester. I think he'll be at left guard. I think Boone at center. LJ Prudhomme from Arkansas is the guy Mississippi State recruited pretty heavily out of high school. I think he takes that right guard spot. And then a guy who was here last year, redshirted from junior college, Jakeem Shumpert Perkins, I think will be the right tackle for Mississippi State. Lebby says he feels really good about 5 to 7 of his guys. He's trying to find 2 more guys. He wants to have 8 to 9 offensive linemen that they can plug and play. Blake Steen, the transfer from Virginia who got hurt in the first half against Southern Mississippi last year, he'll be a guy who can play inside or outside. He'll be a versatile piece for Mississippi State. But they got to find a couple of more guys there. This is the biggest question for Mississippi State, in my opinion. If that offensive line, it doesn't have to be great. I don't need, 5 Hall of Famers out there if you're Mississippi State. You just need them to be better. You just need them to be average. An average offensive line with Kamario Taylor and the skill position talent they have, that's plenty. I don't need 5 first-round picks out of this group. I just need them to be a C-plus offensive line, and I think you can do a lot on offense this year at Mississippi State.
Life is made up of moments. We care about those moments as much as you do. We are Modern Woodmen, a fraternal financial services organization, member-owned, not stockholder-run. Since 1883, we've supported families, strengthened communities, and helped people reach their financial goals. From protection to saving to retirement planning, let us help you plan for those special moments in your life. We are Modern Woodmen of America.
if you look at a scale on one side as far as you can go to California and on the right side as far as you can go from New York, I think you got Cameron Hutzler on one side, Zach Arnett on the other. I don't think you could be any further apart. I'm a huge Zach Arnett fan.
Yeah.
Having a former head coach, I would think would help Levy in some game decisions because, boy, he made some last year that just scratches your head.
Yeah.
So having Zach back, not only in that capacity, but defensive coordinator, I thought Mississippi State had a lot of talent last year. I thought Isaac Smith had a great year. Kelly Jones, I'm a big fan of him. The defense should be insurmountably better than last year.
Yeah. I mean, just having Arnett adds to the equation. You're going to be better with Zach Arnett. This is a guy who's done it in the SEC. He took over at Mississippi State in 2020. That defense, nobody had any expectations for it. They were good right off the jump, and he was good all 3 years he was at Mississippi State. They will be better on that side of the ball. You mentioned some of the talent. They have a good number of guys who I think can be potential Sunday players. Obviously, Kelly Jones is who it starts with, who's maybe the best cornerback in college football. Isaac Smith is a 4-year starter at one school. Again, you talk about outliers. You just don't see that. Never been in the portal. I like the linebacker group with Zachary Tillman, Jalen Smith, and Tyler Lockhart. In Zach Arnett's defense, the linebackers thrive. You go back to when he was there in Bookie Watson and Jet Johnson, those guys racking up 100-plus tackles a game. Will Whitson is a big X factor for Mississippi State. He got hurt in the first half against Arizona State, so he played 6 quarters last year. He was the SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week against Southern Mississippi in Week 1 and was having a great game against Arizona State when he got hurt. If he can stay healthy, and that's a big if, he can be a difference maker for this team. And then another name to know is Dalen Evans, the transfer from Texas A&M. State has kind of lacked, they had Jeff Simmons and then backed him up with Cam Young. Cam Young was a really good player for Mississippi State, but they have lacked that guy in the middle who can just absorb blockers and free up everybody else. They're hopeful that Dalen Evans can be that guy. The good news for State is, year one under Levy, if you look at the two deep on defense, there might have been 5 guys who needed to be playing SEC football out of the whole group. Last year it was probably closer to half. This year, I feel like almost all of these guys belong on an SEC roster. You don't have a guy who just stands out like a sore thumb and says, why is that guy playing for Mississippi State? So better depth, better coaching, better talent. They should be better. I could see them taking a big jump and being a top half of the SEC defense if everything goes right.
Defensive line, Hadad, is a position to where Mississippi State has always kind of been at the upper echelon of the SEC. It's kind of fallen off here lately. I know they went to the portal some, but they've got – you talked about Whitson, the senior, DJ Reed, and then Calvin Dinkins. Are those some guys you think that can get Mississippi State back where they need to be on that defensive front?
Yeah, you don't have a Fletcher Cox or a Chris Jones or a Jeff Simmons in that group for sure, but you've got good players. Like I said, I mentioned Evans. Whitson is probably the best guy in there when he's healthy. If he gives State 12 games this year, he could be a potential All-SEC guy. I think he's got that much working for him. And like I said, the depth is just so much better. Calvin Dinkins and Trevion Williams, if those are your backup guys, those are pretty good backups. Those are your second string guys. You feel really good about them. DJ Reed, Jeray Bledsoe gave State some moments last year, the transfer from Texas. These are all quality guys. I think State will be much improved on, like I said, on that side of the ball. State's biggest issue last year was they could not stop the run. They just could not stop it. You go back and you watch the game against Missouri, the game against Georgia, just so many long runs against them. And then the other problem State had last year was the cornerback that wasn't Kelly Jones. If you go back and watch the Egg Bowl, and Jones talked about this at SEC Media Days with me. He basically said midway through the second quarter, whoever he was guarding looked at him as like, you're not going to see the ball today. Like, we're not coming over here. And if you go back and watch the film, they don't throw at Kelly Jones all day, but the other cornerbacks weren't any good, and so they had to go there. State's probably going to be starting a guy named Jet Jefferson on the other side of Kelly Jones. He was a JUCO guy. He was going to be the starter last year, but got hurt right before the USM game and was just never the same. But they think he's grabbed that number 2 spot. They went out in the portal and brought in a couple of guys there. State's secondary really should be the strength of the team with Jones, Isaac Smith, Jordan Gilbert, who's played at LSU, Marcus Williams, who's been a longtime starter in Conference USA. They bring in, as I mentioned, Jet Jefferson, bring in Quentin Taylor from Iowa State. They have a lot of experience there, and they also have the most exciting freshman on the team there in the secondary, and Braylon Womack, the 4-star kid. Hartfield Academy. I had a good source on him since Michael Borky is the voice of the Hartfield Hawks. He's like, that kid is an unbelievable athlete. I think he'll be playing sooner rather than later for Mississippi State. That secondary really is the strength for them.
You know, you'll find this interesting. So it was me and the WTVA sports lady at the time, years ago, Tyler Lockhart. I'm at Winona High School.
Yeah.
He's a true softball, great player. Throws the land shark up. I put the post and everything, then it goes crazy. My phone starts lighting up 30 minutes later, and it's like, Brad, something's not right. And rock along there, I start reaching out to Mississippi State folks. I was like, yeah, it's not right. We've got a mess. Long story short, he's a Mississippi State Bulldog, and he is a great player. That's one I know Ole Miss fans hated to see get away. And then Jet Johnson, they recruited him out of Tupelo. Both those guys, Mississippi guys, are doing really good.
And Jet Johnson now back on the coaching staff for Mississippi State. So I'm talking about Jet Jefferson, the cornerback, is the guy, the JUCO guy. But Jet Johnson is back at Mississippi State as a coach.
Yeah, as a coach. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was.
I'm glad. Glad to see him back. He's just having. I think you probably agree with this from an Ole Miss perspective. It doesn't matter what team you support. Having a couple of guys on the staff as analysts or whatever who played and know what it means to wear the uniform of your team, always a good thing. Always a good thing.
And State, and I applaud both coaching staffs, P. Golding, or whoever else. I mean, having Mississippi guys come back and be on that staff. I know Dante Moncrief is back, and Jeff Levy obviously understands that, and bringing Johnson back is always really cool. Before we get out of here today, I'll be honest with you. I think there was a path for Mississippi State to win 8 games last year.
Oh,
because
for sure.
you look at the Florida game, the Tennessee game, the Texas game, and I went back and watched all 3 of those games, and I'm really hoping. I think, and I know Mississippi State fans are hoping that Jeff Levy learned from that, learned from those coaching decisions down the stretch. There was no reason to throw the ball against Florida. There was no reason to kick to the guy against Texas at that point in the game.
You're right.
And then Tennessee just kind of let it get away. What do you think Levy learned from that, and what do you think he can do to maybe some people he can lean on, because those are decisions you can't make in the SEC?
Yeah, I mean, if people ask me why are you, we just had this whole discussion, Brad. We're like, I think State's got an outstanding quarterback, and I think they're going to be improved on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And I think the defense. So why don't you think State's going to win 8 or 9 games? It's Jeff Levy, and I just don't know about him. And you mentioned it last year. I mean, big picture and little picture, decisions he's made along the way have hurt him. Obviously, going with Coleman Hutzler was a terrible idea, and then to bring him back for a second year was an even worse idea. You mentioned those games, the Tennessee game. You fake a punt, you've got all the momentum in the world. You're running the ball down Tennessee's throat, but then you throw a pass, you get a sack, turns into a fumble, it gets recovered, it goes the other way for a touchdown, you lose. The Florida game. All you've got to do there is run the football a couple times and give yourself a chance to kick the field goal. I said this on Thunder and Lightning, and I'll say it here. If you kick the field goal and you miss, everybody can live with that. They're mad, they're upset, but you can live with the decision. You can't live with we threw an interception on that side of the field. The Texas game, you mentioned, why on earth are you punting to the best punt returner in college football? All you got to do is kick it out of bounds there. And not to mention the fact that with a 17-point lead, you're calling plays. You're snapping the ball with 25, 26 seconds left on the play clock. Run the clock down. State added some experience to the offensive side of the ball this year. Philip Montgomery has been around a long time. Kevin Johns. Matt Wells has come in as an analyst, the former Texas Tech head coach. Mason Miller is back in Starkville helping out on the offensive line. They added a lot of experience there. Jeff Levy needs somebody in the headset with them to say, hey, we can slow it down here. We can do this. We can do that. I hope that helps a lot. I think Levy is an unbelievably good offensive play caller. If he can figure out the rest of it and just figure out how to be a head coach, then State can take a big step forward. But Levy is the reason I would say this season's going to be tougher than it probably has to be.
All games are important, but I think in order to get to 7, maybe 8 wins, or maybe get to a bowl game at 6-6, is the game at Minnesota. I think it's huge.
I do a poll every year of the media that covers State, and I asked that question, what's the most important game of the year? Minnesota is my answer. They have to win that game. If Jeff Levy loses to Minnesota, there is no support for Jeff Levy among the Mississippi State fan base. They're done. They're out at that point. He has to be 2-0 when they go to South Carolina in week 3. If he's not, I just don't see a way forward for Jeff Levy. So Minnesota is a good team. They're tough to beat at home, but from an athletic standpoint, from just athlete to athlete, Mississippi State is a far superior roster to Minnesota. They should win that game. If they do not, I don't know how Jeff Libby goes forward from that.
Friend of the program, Brian Hadad. Of course, you can catch him every single day from 3 until 6 on Sports Talk Mississippi. That's a part of Super Talk Mississippi on the app or all across radio stations in the South. Hadad, thanks very much for joining us. And, man, ready to kick it off. Appreciate it.
You tell Garrett, you tell him what I said here today. Make sure he hears.
I'm going to. He'll make sure. He'll hear it.
Very good.
Thank
Very
you.
good.
Appreciate
yes,
it.
Yes, sir.